Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Apple Core of Dallas and Bill Atkinson presentation of HyperCard. If everyone would please find their seats so that we can get started, we'd appreciate it. First of all, I'd like to explain a little bit about the Computer Council of Dallas and the Apple Core of Dallas. For those of you that may be new or this is their first presentation that you've seen, the Computer Council of Dallas is an association of 14 different user groups in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area that got together and formed one corporation that could interface with InfoMart in order that we could have this facility once a month in order to meet with. And I believe this is quite a facility. As you all are well aware, we have over 100 SIG meetings that go on each Saturday that we have a meeting here, as well as the vendor area downstairs. We have 60 vendors who come and sell and display their wares. The vendors are the sole source of income for the Computer Council of Dallas. The Apple Core is one of the members of the Computer Council of Dallas. We currently have 900 members. This year, or January, will mark the 10th anniversary of the Apple Core. It was formed in January of 1978, so we look forward to celebrating the next year our 10th anniversary. One of the things that we are doing is starting out with this year, toward the end in December, is the presentation by Bill Atkinson of HyperCard. Let me tell you a little bit about Bill. He is an Apple Fellow. He's been with Apple for 9.5 years. He started about the same time that the Apple Core of Dallas started. Some of the accomplishments, the things that he has done, for those of you that aren't familiar with him, he ported UCSD Pascal to the Apple II. For 3.5 years, it took him to write QuickDraw, which we see on the Lisa and on the Mac. He was the user interface guru for the Lisa, and then which the technology was also transferred to the Mac. It took 1.5 years, and he wrote Paint, which we all saw that was introduced with the Macintosh in 1984. He was involved in a research project called the Magic Slate, which was an internal project in Apple, one of the long-term technologies that they're working on. And for the last 3 years, he's been working on HyperCard, the product for which he will show us today. So if you will, please give a hand and welcome Bill Atkinson. Good luck.
Can everybody hear me? All right. I'll try and talk slowly. First of all, since this is kind of a mixed group, I'd like to find out how many people here, say, own a Macintosh. It's not so mixed, okay? I take it most of those own HyperCard. Okay. How many of you have heard me give this spiel before? Okay, good. That makes me feel a lot more at ease. I've given this talk 30 times, and I keep wondering if I'm going to be boring people because they've already heard me. How's this doing here? Let's get outward. I'm going to fall off the edge. What Macintosh has been trying to do is make the computer, personal computer, more accessible to individual people. And the first installment of that has been trying to make it so that the use of an application program is easier. At the same time, it's gotten harder to program the machine. There are a lot of Macintosh owners out there who would like to get more control of their machine and yet find that what it takes to become a certified developer is a pretty hard step to take. So what HyperCard is attempting to do here is to offer a new media that's between the application on the one hand and the document on the other. In Macintosh, a document contains information. is made by a user, and that information is relatively passive. It's acted upon by the application over here. The application has lots of interaction in it, usually not very much information. And the application can only be made by a programmer. What HyperCard offers is a new format in between, the stackware format that has information like a document and has interaction like an application program. And yet it's simple enough that users can put them together using an approach that I call the software erector set. What HyperCard uses is a metaphor of cards. Each card is sort of a bite-sized, digestible chunk of information. It contains graphics, text, and buttons. The buttons kind of bring it to life. They do stuff when you poke at them. Here, if I press on the right arrow, it goes to another card. The cards are grouped together into stacks of information. And a stack is a Macintosh file. You can put it on a floppy disk, share it, upload it, sell it. That's the unit of exchange, is a stack of information. You can go from each card in a stack to the next or the previous or the first or the last, or you can take arbitrary jumps. You can say go from any card to any other card, even in a different stack, by making a link. And this is the essence of where you get connections by association. Things that are logically connected together can be tied together even though they're not physically together in the file. All the cards are the same size. This is deliberate choice to facilitate exchange of information and to give a format to design into. When you make graphics and text together, you really need to have sort of a frame to work within rather than trying to word wrap the graphics into some stretchable frame. It works a lot better to have a known publishing format. And this format is the largest size that every Macintosh can display, the size of the original Mac screen. Cards are fairly general. You can have lots more on them than you might think of. You can have buttons that have interactions. Here was some sound and animation. You can have cards that have things that don't look like a 3x5 card. Lots of different kinds of information. Little appointment calendars and things like that. Lots of different kinds of information in stacks. Here's a little interaction where you press on some keys of a keyboard, and the little note moves on the clef and you hear the sounds. Now, with the freedom to go from any card to any other, you also have the very real possibility of getting lost. HyperCard helps you a little bit with this by keeping a breadcrumb trail of every place you've been. And you can always go back, retrace your steps through the breadcrumb trail by pressing the top left key. And it'll step you back through cards you've been. Another way it helps you keep from getting lost is by having a concept of a home card. No matter how lost you get, no matter where you are, you can always say go home and get to my home base. On the home card are buttons that take me off to several of the commonly used stacks. This is all, you can put your own favorite stacks on here. These are some of the stacks that come with HyperCard, except for this one here. Business class is sold separately. And I've added some cards to the clip art. Also, I've added my names and addresses into the address stack, things like that. But this home card provides sort of a launching base to go out to things, like I go to my address stack here, where I've got names and addresses in there. Find Jim, flip to cards containing Jim. Or find Ed, The default search matches words beginning with. So if you say find Ed, it will find Ed or Edmondson, words beginning with that. Also, if you do more than one word, say find Jim ATK, it will match even though Jim and ATK are separated on the card. It does sort of a forgiving match. And it will match things like Atkinson, comma, Jim, and things like that. I might go from here to saying, well, let's go to a calendar. And there's a 6-month calendar. Touch on a given day. How about December 25th? Go to the week containing Christmas Day. And click and type things there. Or go to a to-do list. Oh, I'm supposed to call this person. Call Ken Takara. If I now touch on the address icon here, it'll go to the address stack and then look up that person. So that things are tied together in different stacks by logical connections. Here's another stack of information that has visual information, clip art images I might cut and paste when making a poster or something. And I can step through those, or I can use search to say find a horse. Or I could touch on a horse to go to other horses. Or touch on a wheel to go to other things containing wheels. So this is a way that associated information is linked together in a thread of related information. Now, there's nothing mysterious about these. You can peek them. If you hold down the Option and Command keys, you can peek all of the links. And you say, oh, there's one on the hat here. What does that do? I see, it goes to other hats. So you can have thematic threads through information as well as the primary order that cards are in. There's a third way to access information. Notice the searching, you had to kind of know what you were looking for. You had to know you were looking for a horse. The browsing technique of touching on these links, it's kind of teaching you a little more about the structure of the data. It's telling you what associations it has within it. And the third way is one where you say, well, I don't know anything about this. I just want to know roughly what's there. Show me the whole thing. Just show me what you've got, flipping through it. And this way of access allows you to kind of scan things. This is a Mac 2, which is about 2.5 or 3 times faster than a Mac Plus. The performance is still pretty good on a Mac Plus. All of these images have been packed so that you can fit a lot more on a disk. Some examples of the packing success have been when I took a bunch of, Kinko's academic courseware had a lot of disks of screenshots that were in MacPaint format, which is already compressed. Runs of equal bytes are compressed out in that. And they took those and put them into a stack and found that they could ship it on 1/10 as many disks. So it's 10 times better packing than the packing that's in MacPaint format. And as we're displaying all of these, we're unpacking them, and therefore we're kind of leveraging both the disk space and the network bandwidth. When you use HyperCard over AppleShare, over the AppleTalk network, you still get good performance because the packing is kind of leveraging the network performance too. Another stack that I use a lot, and I'm very dependent on, is one that keeps track of all the journal articles that I've read. Little bits and pieces of information that I used to just keep in piles and piles and piles of piles. And I've turned to keeping in a big filing cabinet. And instead of putting them together in subject groups, like put all the handwriting recognition stuff together, what I've found works much better is just to put them in the drawer in order of arrival. No magic ordering at all. Just take the next one and put it in. And then but then type a little card to help me find it. So later I can go back and say, find hand, be able to pull up all the handwriting stuff, and yet I was able to file it very quickly. and I was able to pull it back very simply. So I just use a number on each thing, put them in the drawer according to the number, but then type in a little card about it. And this works for lots of kinds of information besides journal articles, and it makes it so that other people can find stuff in my filing cabinet, and other people can refile stuff because it's just a number. And I've gotten very dependent on that for the way I do a lot of my work. Okay. When you get HyperCard, it comes with this user level that goes from browsing to typing to painting to authoring to scripting. And it initially comes at typing, which is one of the lower levels. This is enough to use all the stacks that come with HyperCard. It's enough to add cards to the address book and type in appointments and things like that. But there's a growth path here that you can go further than that. At the typing level, the menus are relatively simple. There's a navigation menu here. The Go menu lets you go back. That's the breadcrumb trail. Go home, go to the online help system, or go to some recent card that will show cards you've been at. You can just touch on one, and it will take you there. Or you can go to the first or last or next or previous card within a stack, or you can find something or hide and show the message box. The edit menu is also fairly simple. It has the standard cut, paste, copy stuff, and then new card and delete card. And then the file menu has some new stack, open an old existing stack, some printing stuff where you can say print this card quick the way it is, or print a stack of cards in different numbers of cards per page. Here you can say, well, I want 1, or I want 2, or I want 4, or 8 here, or give me 32 on a page, and different formats. Or you can say, out of a given stack of cards, let's say out of the address stack here, I'd like to extract some text. And instead of printing the cards with all their graphics, I just want some text. And here it says print just the name and address field and the phone number field, and print it like this, set up to print them out like that. Or I could say I want to do labels, mailing labels, or disk labels, and set that up the way you want it. And once you set it up, it remembers for the next time. Okay? If and when you decide to go beyond the typing level, and I really say that, I think there are a lot of people who will be using HyperCard as an access tool to get at stacks that other people have made. And there's a gentle, gradual path to allow those people to become authors of information as opposed to just users, but it's okay to stay a user of information. Think how many Walkman Sony sells, and they don't record. HyperCard is sort of both a playback tool and an authoring tool. If you decide to go the next level, painting brings up another menu that has in it painting tools. You can use those from the menu, or you can tear them off, make a little tear-off palette out of it. Give me a new card here, and you can draw things, stretching out rectangles and ovals and things like that. You can also say, draw centered. Now I'll draw from the center. Or you can say, draw multiple, and you can get things like that. Or let's draw, here, give me a new card, a multiple polygon here. And select that. You can control also the opacity of information, whether it's opaque or transparent. You say here O for opaque, as opposed to T for transparent. Lets you control, all the images are actually 2 bits deep. They have both blackness and whiteness, and opaqueness or transparency. Then I might peel off some copies of that and select all of that, cut, undo. Let's invert that and make it a little lighter, paste, make an image. Anyway, these are painting tools that allow you to change the graphic on individual cards, or by saying edit the background to change what's on the shared background of cards. So now if I flip between cards, I've changed that shared image that all of those are sharing. I'll put that back the way it was. Okay. The next level is an authoring level that when you choose that, it brings up yet another menu. The Objects menu lets you start to see a little of the anatomy of a stack. You can see that it consists of buttons, fields, cards, backgrounds, and the stack itself. You can get information about those, and choosing this authoring level enables the button and field tools. The field tool lets you see the boxes the text is in. When you choose it, you can see the boxes. You can pull on a corner to resize one. If you change one that's shared between different cards, all of them will be updated automatically. If you pull on the middle, that will move the field instead of resizing it. So adjusting something that exists is not a big deal. You just go get the field tool and stretch it a little bit. You can also say, give me information about that field. Show its name and its style, and set different styles from transparent or opaque or rectangle or shadow. If you want a scroll bar, you check off scrolling. Now it's got a scroll bar, and you can have more stuff there. So they're just sort of different choices of styles, and the Macintosh standard font stuff where you can choose different fonts and sizes and styles and stuff like that. The button tool is a lot like the field tool, except that it works on buttons. Again, you can resize a button by pulling on its corner, or you can pull on a middle to move it without resizing it. That's all it takes. You can also say button info to tell me about that button, to change its name or its style. There are a lot of different button styles here, or change what icon it uses or things like that. Just scroll through a list of icons and choose one. You can also make new buttons and new fields. Supposing I went into this clip art stack, and I'd like to link the eye of this fish to another card that had an eye on it. I could use the button tool to stretch out a new button across the eye, open it up, and choose Link To, then browse around however I want, using, even here, I use Find, EYE, Link To, and then choose this card. That's all it takes to make a link from that eye to that card that has an eye on it, whether that was in another stack or what. So this is how you make these thematic threads through information. You say, well, if he clicks here, I want him to go there. If he clicks here, I want him to go there. And for a lot of people, this is the beginning of branching control in a program. A lot of people who are afraid of the if-then-else construct, if does this, then do this, else if does this, then do that, find it comfortable to use the linking concept here, which seems to be more of a reactive paradigm. It's more like, well, if he pokes here, then go there. It responds in that way. And yet really, if they've got several links set up, it's a multi-way branch. If he presses here, then go there, else if he presses there, then go there, else if he presses there, then go there. Yet it's a lot less foreign to most people than programming constructs. Now when you get HyperCard, it comes with these stacks here, and the ones across the top are kind of a brochure showing the kinds of things you can build with HyperCard. These aren't the end-all, be-all address book and the world's perfect calendar. Lots of people will want, say, a daily calendar instead of a weekly, or lots of different variations. What they're there for is a little bit like when you buy an erector set. It comes with boxes of parts, and it also comes with a brochure showing things built with that erector set. Like, for example, there'll be a picture of a bridge and a picture of a car, and you'll start first by building the things that are in the brochure. You start by building the bridge, and you play with it a bit and use it, and then after a while you'll want to customize it. You make a longer bridge, or one with I don't know, prettier spans or something like that. And in the process of doing that small customization, you're really learning how the whole thing works. How do the nuts and bolts and girders bolt together to make this thing? Later, what you've learned from that, you use to build a brand new object that wasn't in the catalog, that wasn't in the brochure. Maybe you build a spaceship. The same kind of thing happens here in the software erector set. You've got a row here of stacks that are parts kits, and a bunch of example stacks that are a brochure of things you could build. These are actually already working ones, so you don't have to build them right away. You can go ahead and use them right away. But after you've been using them, it's very easy to customize them in small ways. You start by, oh, I wish this field had room for 4 phone numbers. Well, you choose the field tool and you stretch it out a little bit. And a lot of times I've found software that I've run into has been frustrating in that, oh, if they only had this a little different, it would be just right for me. And there's no way to make it perfect for everyone unless it's adjustable to individual people. And that's what you start out with here, is adjusting or modifying the stacks that come with HyperCard as teaching examples. And they're quite useful as they come. But they're also your teaching examples that bring you into creating your own fresh stacks. Supposing we want to make a new stack. We could use, here's art ideas. There's a stack of ideas that you can flip between and say copy and paste any of these images to help you in creating your own cards and stacks. These will save a little time or give you some inspiration. Sometimes you'll use these pieces intact. Other times you'll stretch them or modify them to be a little more what you're looking for. Let's say here's a stack of stack ideas. Each of these is a little seedling for a new stack, a little template, if you will. You can paw through them and say, oh, well, here's some different stacks. Each card here is an idea for a new stack. If we wanted to make a new stack for incoming messages, we might say, oh, well, I like that one back here. Let's take this one and say new stack. We'll call it messages, M-E-S-S-A-G-E-S, and we'll leave it checked where it says copy current background, so that when we press the return, what we get is a brand new stack with one empty card ready for us to use. That's all it takes to make a new stack. We could go ahead and use it, type into it call Ted Kaler or something like that. Now you can use the templates the way they are, or you can customize them, use them as a starting point. Like you might choose the selection tool and edit background, select a bunch of the graphic here, and stretch it over and maybe move this thing in the middle here. Recenter the thumbtack. Then use the field tool to select and delete these two fields, then stretch this one out a little. And maybe we'll finish up by using the button tool to move these buttons over to center them. Now, if you thought you were going to use this new stack template here for other things, you could just choose copy card, go back into the stack ideas stack and paste card, and then you would have that one saved away for future use. So each of the little parts kits that comes with HyperCard, they're deliberately extensible. You can add your own card ideas, your own stack ideas, your own art ideas, your own button ideas to them. Now here, we've made changes to this template, stretching out one field and stretching out the graphics to go with it. Supposing we want to add new capability. We could say, go into a button library here and paw through a parts kit full of preformed buttons. Use the button tool to select a little address icon and copy button. Now we'll go to some recent card, the one we were just working on, and paste button. I'll move it over there. Now, the beauty of this is that when I pasted that button, I didn't get just a picture of a button. I got its intelligence to come with it. That's half of the beauty of the erector set approach, is you're actually moving around capability, so that when I select Ted Kaler here and touch on that button, it knows to go to the address stack and find Ted Kaler. So this is sort of how the software erector set approach works at making interactive information. You copy and paste or modify and paint yourself images until it looks the way you want it. And you copy and paste buttons until it acts the way you want it. Now, in the erector set, the first problem you run into is that you run out of the favorite piece. Usually it's the long straight one. You get to a certain point and you just can't go any further because there aren't any more pieces. Well, here we're never going to run out because we're always peeling off a copy. But another problem happens in the erector set, which is they never had the piece that you want. You want a particular shaped piece, and they don't have it, and they never have had it, and you don't have a sheet metal stamp, so you can't add to it. And that's where HyperCard's button library, that would be the same thing as if you went to the button library and they don't have a button that does this. And there's one that does similar to it, but not quite it. You can then modify it. That's what the next level of the next user level is all about. Scripting lets you see behind the buttons and modify and enhance them. And it's okay if only a fraction of the HyperCard users learn the scripting language, because they'll make a nice library of buttons for other people to cut and paste. My experience has been a lot of people are learning the scripting language. One of the best ways to explain the scripting language is sort of to show the message box here we've been using already. We've been using it to search. We say find I, or here we'll say 3/7 return, and it evaluates it like a little calculator. Whatever you type will be evaluated when you press the return key. You can say things like pi, and it will evaluate it. Or you can say things like the date. Whoops. What happened there? I wasn't watching what I was doing. The date. What's going on here? D-A-T-E. Return. Oh, okay. I know what happened. This keyboard bounced. And when I pressed the return key, it got pressed twice. And so it first put the date, which was 12/19/87. And if you press return key again, it'll compute that. It's 12 divided by 19 divided by 87. Had me confused. The long date, I'll try the enter key, maybe it works better. You can put it in a different format, etc. Or you can do little commands. Go next card. When you press the return key or the enter key, it will do whatever's in the message box. Or go clip art. We'll go to the clip art stack. So you can type little messages into the message box and it'll do them. You can also train other things, buttons and cards, other things, but mostly buttons, to type little messages for you. And that's what the scripting is all about. If you use the button tool to look at the script of this button, we had a little right arrow here. If we look at its script, it says, on mouse up, go to next card. That is the brains or the intelligence behind this button. It's what makes it know what to do under what conditions. A little like an actor's script consists of cues and lines to speak. When you hear the cue mouse up, speak the lines, go to next card. If we look at the button that was made when we said link to, we can open up that. Now we just chose link to from the dialog, but it wrote a little script for us. It said on mouse up, go to card ID such and so, go to a particular card. We could modify this script. For example, we might say visual effect, dissolve. Now if I go to that, if I press on the fish's eye, it will dissolve into the eye. Or I could modify it to say, throw in an adverb, dissolve slowly. Or maybe let's make some sound here. Play boing. So you can you can customize buttons, and now what we've got is a boing dissolve button. And we could put that in the library, copy and paste a copy of it into the library. Now we can put one someplace else, like on the tail of this fish, and open it up and say, link it to, say, this big marlin over here, link it to there. And now you've got a boing dissolve into the marlin, so that you can make sort of new categories of buttons. Now the last user level isn't shown. It's sort of off the end here, and it's called programming. This programming level means you go and you buy a compiler, and you learn how to write C or Pascal or assembly language, and you learn how to call a Macintosh toolkit interface, and a couple years later you're ready to write a little piece of program that can then be called from the scripting language as though it were built in. It's very easy. Just as we can extend the button library by writing scripts, we can extend the scripting language by native code. So if you write a little 10-line Pascal procedure that puts out some bytes to the serial port to control, say, a video disk, then you can call that from within a script. And people can cut and paste buttons that use that without knowing about the programming side of it on the back end. In this way, HyperCard can really, behind a button, you can have it do almost anything that the Macintosh can do. Now there's a help system that comes with HyperCard that is itself a HyperCard stack. And it teaches the features of HyperCard, all the things that you can do, and all of the language features and things like that. It also teaches in another way, by example. This is an example of using HyperCard for training information. You can learn by dissecting this stack as well as by using it. You go into a tab that says Menus, go into Tools, and touch on different tools to see what they do. The combination of graphics and text and buttons seems to be a relatively simple format that can express a fairly wide variety of different kinds of interactive information. There's a little map here that shows you are here, and you can go to different sections. Well, tell me about HyperTalk. Tell me about the commands for HyperCard. The HyperTalk commands here, you can say, well, show me the answer command. And they're all online. That is, not only does it show you the form, give you a little description, but you can scoop it up. Hold down the command key, and you can scoop up any piece of text. So here we've scooped up where it says, answer how many copies with 1 or 2. If I press the return key, it puts up the dialog that says, how many copies? 1, 2. And choose 1, and then it has 1 in it. Or you could say, tell me about the ask command. It says ask question with default. Okay, so I'll say ask, quote, what's your name? And that's all it takes to put up a dialogue in HyperTalk. So it says, what's your name? You can type in Bill, and this return key really does bounce bad. And now the accumulator it comes back with Bill in it. So you could say, ask, what's your name? If it is Bill, then go to stack so-and-so. There are a lot of commands in here that give you a full programming language to control how HyperCard interacts. One of the big differences between this programming language and things like Pascal or C is that the concepts here are much, much higher level. You're dealing with the logical entities that you're interacting with rather than, well, like Pascal doesn't even know what a rectangle is. You sort of, the object level at most programming languages is too general to be useful for a specific environment. Now, when you type something into the message box, what happens is that gets sent as a message to the current card. If the current card doesn't understand it, it'll be passed to its background, and if that doesn't understand it, it'll be passed on to the stack, and if that doesn't, to the home stack. This lets you capture those at any place along the chain of inheritance. So you can put a small amount of intelligence at a central location to achieve a global effect. For example, back in the home stack here, I might put a script within the home stack that says, on CL, go to clipart. I've defined a new command, CL. So if I find there's anything that I do a lot, maybe I go to the clipart stack a lot, then I can just summarize it that way, make my own personalized command there, and do CL return, and it'll go to the clipart stack. So you can add your own commands just by putting some scripting into a stack or into your home stack. You can also put small amounts of intelligence in strategic places to do useful things. Like if you look at the scripts behind this address stack, you notice here if I make a new card, it automatically puts the insertion point in the first field for me. Also, if I type a bunch of stuff, when I press enter, it automatically dates this card for me, puts a modification date on it. What makes that work is that in this card's background, its script says, on close field, put the date into field date. That's all it takes to make it automatically date things. And if you were to look inside this stack, see how it worked, you'd be able to say, oh yeah, I see how that works, and copy and paste that little piece of script and put it in one of your stacks in order to get that behavior. Or it says here on new card, tab key. And you could probably guess that if you wanted it to be in the second field, you could say tab key, tab key. What would happen if you'd hit the tab key twice? So in this way, a small amount of intelligence at a central location can go a long ways in terms of being able to make these stacks intelligent. I'm going to show you some examples of stacks that people have put together. And a lot of this has been people that haven't been programmers, people that haven't had the power of controlling or manipulating their Macintosh and are suddenly waking up to some of their creative ideas that they've had and now can express. Here's an idea that Danny Goodman had for a number of years and was able to do because of HyperCard. It shows a map of the world, and superimposed on that a dark zone showing where the 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. lines are, roughly where is it dark in the world. And you can touch on areas to go there. So we zoom in on different countries, and just by touching on the countries, browse to them. And when you're at a given country, so he's got like 70 different countries in here, when you're at a country, you can bring up associated information. Here's like currency for Paris or France. All the common denominations, and given the exchange rate, convert back and forth between dollars and francs. Air travel information, airports and airlines. Ground transportation, bus and rail, car rental. Visas and passports. Social customs, tipping conventions, language, various social customs, national holidays, weather information for different cities, different times of the year, a little converter from centigrade to Fahrenheit, postal rates, time conversion. Given the current time in your local area, convert it to Greenwich Mean Time or time in Paris. Or given any Paris time, convert it to local time, or any local time, convert it to Paris time. In emergency numbers, hotels, power, how to dial a phone, things like that. And each of these for each country. So this is kind of an idea that he wanted to put together for keeping track of international information. And it's been relatively easy for him to put it together in HyperCard. His working prototype that has basically everything that's here, except he hadn't filled in all the information, took him less than 2 weeks to put together. He spent most of his time concentrating on getting the information, calling all the travel agencies and the embassies and things like that. And if he had had to sit down and write a program for this, it wouldn't have happened. Here's some stacks that, here's one that's done by a person who is by no means a programmer. A friend of mine named Amanda put together a little children's story here. This one's called Inigo Gets Out by Amanda Goodenough. That's a little story where you click on things to help the cat go on a travel. Let's see, what are this? Rabbit's feet? A rabbit. What's this? Oh, don't be ridiculous. Okay. What's over here? What's this? Oops. Let's get up on the log. Dry off a bit. What's this? Oops. Oh, down the middle of the tree. What's down the road here? Ooh, a bird bath. What's this? Uh-oh, better get out of here. These are kind of things that I think of as sort of low tech but high touch. You like that? There's a sequel to it. Inigo Takes a Bath. You lead Inigo through, help him get his bath bubbles, pour him in. Let's dry off. Get some powder. Time to brush off. Did you hear that purring sound? You want to see the script for it? It's amazing. This is like a hack and a half. It's using the honk voice to make a purr. And a last one by Amanda. She's actually thinking of doing some kind of a disc of the month, where you send in like $30 and you get 6 discs. No, he looks too sleepy. Not him. No, this one's a little young. How about this guy? He says, yeah, me. Okay. Take us on a trip here. What's the T here? Uh-huh. It's a little hot. An oasis. Oh, great. Uh-huh. What's in the suitcase? The tent. Oh, breakfast time. Say grace. That's good. Now these animations are real simple. They're just, she's taken a copy of the card and pasted it and then changed something, and then the animations, she made a link that goes to that card and comes back. So it's, they're low tech, but they do the job. What's this? A pyramid. Oh. Now, what's in this trunk? I'd like to get in there. I can't seem to. What's in there? Ah, there he is, and there's the key. Let's go up and try the trunk now. Now we can get into it. And it's a magic carpet. Etc. So, to be continued. Now, HyperCard has, and remember, these are made by non-programmers. HyperCard has a sound manager built into it to play digitized sounds. You can copy and paste sounds from a library of sounds, or you can actually enter your own sounds with a little sound capture box. There are a couple different companies make little accessories for Mac that go plug in the back, and you can put a tape recorder into. So you can play sounds like, "Hey Jude," or things like you could say, "Play, hey, hey," or you can put some notes after it, C, D, E, F, G, to stretch it into those frequencies. Hey, 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 hey. Now, it's not often that you would really want to stretch voice, but often musical instruments, like say you digitize a Jew's harp playing once, then you could play that with different notes. If you look at the script for this, it just says play boing and a sequence of notes. So it's really easy to add sound to HyperCard. And the sound is all asynchronous. It keeps going while you're doing other things. So you can be doing animations and stuff while the sound is going. That's pretty important for teaching stuff and training materials.
Hi there, everybody.
Whenever you get a stack from somebody else, it's a new parts kit. There are buttons in it that you may want to learn from or copy and paste. There are sounds in it you may want to learn from. You may want to copy and paste them, or graphics. A lot of the stacks people are releasing deliberately public domain for other people to build on top of. There's a lot of sharing going on in HyperCard. And these are some of the sounds that I've gleaned from other stacks. You end up using sounds as sort of another little touch to help the production value as you're going from one card to another. A little like the visual effects. It doesn't really do anything except make you feel better. I've got lots of little things here. Here's a dumb one. I mean, no, I don't want to say that. Let me see. Somebody sent me this neat stack that from the Arizona State University. This is their team song. And you can say, play that with a saxophone. Anyway, you get the idea. But you can put other voices into it. Anyway, there are lots of fun stuff that you can do. I got to share this one more fun one, and then I'll get on to some serious ones. Here's one for call screening.
Good morning, Canode Associates. He'll be gone all morning. He'll be out the rest of the afternoon.
I like this one where it says punt.
Something's going wrong with the line. Can you call back? Something's going wrong with the line. Can you call back?
Okay, so you can do fun stuff with HyperCard. A little bit like MacPaint, it's both a toy and a tool at the same time. And I think I want to show some bit more business-like stuff so people don't go away with the idea that this is a adventure construction set. That this is actually something you build working tools with, and it's just, you can also build other things with it. Here's a stack called Sales Writer that Ken Landau did that helps Macintosh, helps Apple dealers configure sales. They've got a lot of combinations of machines and peripherals, and they've got to get everything right to make sure that all the right parts are there. So this, you start out by filling out a customer's name and address, salesperson, and the customer's phone. You then go to, well, okay, what do you want to order? They have Apple II and Macintosh stuff, and they've got sort of predefined orders. There's the standard setup that we give them, or peripherals, or you can say, give me a custom system order. it'll show you, okay, well, you want Macintoshes? This is what we have. We got Mac Plus, we got Mac SE, we got Mac 2. Oh, well, let's get some of these. And yeah, with the hard drive in it. How many do you want? Oh, 5 of them. It's not my money. And when you go on to the next thing, it'll say, oh, you probably want some keyboards. We got the Apple keyboard or the Apple extended keyboard. And we'll take 3 of the regular keyboards, and it's suggesting 2 of the extended keyboards, which kind of makes sense. It's suggesting I probably want some monitors to go with that. Oh, well, let's take some monochrome monitors. Let's take 2 of those. And say some color monitors. It's suggesting 3, but I'm going to take 2 because I'm going to get a 1,000-inch external monitor from some third-party vendor. It says you got 5 Macs on order and only 4 screens. Is that okay? Yeah, that's okay. I know what I'm doing. You want some video cards? Yeah, you probably want 4 of them. Okay. And it kind of paces you through, reminding you what stuff there is. Memory. Well, we better get 8 megs for each of them. And then you can, say, add some peripherals. So, well, let's get some 80 meg hard drives. Let's get 4 of those so we can lug them around. And we'll say, when you set it go on, it says, oh, you're going to need some SCSI cables. And you can choose individual cables, or you can say, you configure it. Figure out what cables I need. Give me what I need. Give me the terminators and cables and all that kind of stuff. Printers. Oh, let's get 1 LaserWriter Plus. And again, you configure the Apple Talk cable. Give me what I need. And then you can, at any time, you can kind of review your order. How bad am I doing so far? 67 grand. Maybe I want to delete a few items or something. But here's an example of a stack that is heavily user interface driven. It's really a matter of a user interface rather than any heavy-duty computation here. The heavy-duty computation is adding up a column of numbers. This was something that a salesperson could put together without having to be a programmer to do it, and could express what they knew about the way things happened in their typical sales situation, and therefore help other people that were doing similar things. Now, this needn't have been particularly selling Apple equipment. There's a lot of things where an individual person's been doing a job for a while, they know how they do it, they know what they do, and if they could express what they do in an interactive dialogue like this, they could make their knowledge more available to other people, and less people would get home without the right SCSI cable. Here's a stack that the VersaCAD people use to teach their VersaCAD Mac, which is a rather full-featured CAD program for Macintosh, has a lot of features to be taught. And so they use a stack that teaches. You can say, well, tell me, what's this little scissors and line stuff? Extend and trim. And you can, just by moving over different things, it's calling up different card-specific fields. The script of these is just saying show or hide card field so-and-so. Very, very simple to do, and yet you can have in this an expression of all the different tools and features in this program in a way that people can kind of get at them and pull out those parts that they want at once. They also find this same stack to be a good advertisement for their program, because they can give away this stack and you can explore the features of this program before you buy it instead of afterwards. Here's the stack that people at the AIDS Foundation put together. and it has a big animated thing at the beginning that I'm going to step over because it takes too long. But the meat of it has information about, here, basic information about the virus, how it's spread, information about commonly asked questions, glossary, AIDS-related symptoms, local information in your area. You can say, well, tell me for California, bring up information about that area. Where can I find out more? Or information, statistics and charts. You can say, well, give me new cases by year, or case fatalities by year. And the combination, again, of graphics and text and buttons makes interactive information of a large number of different kinds of information accessible here to a non-programmer that can put together this information. They've even included an AIDS clock, which follows the current trend curves and says if the trend continues, how many people should be dead by today out of this. And so it's not just for adventure games. HyperCard is a medium for presenting interactive information. And it's a medium that lends itself to people getting more control over the machine. I think, what I'm really trying to do with HyperCard is the next installment of the Mac dream of putting the power of the personal computer more into individual people's hands. Now, part of that is as a sharing and publishing medium. Another part of it is just as organizing your own world the way you work and customizing it to make sense the way you do it. And I'm seeing a lot of people saying, wow, this is really giving me a power that I've wanted but haven't had before. A little bit like some of the early Apple II days where people were making their little Pong games and sharing them. And their excitement wasn't so much about the Pong game, but their newfound power. And they're saying, wow, look what I made. I made it myself. What's happening with HyperCard is sort of a new generation of hacker. Hyper hacker is developing, and it's much less selected than the original generation of hacker. The people that stayed up all night figuring out how to work the jargon of the computer and make the bits and bytes go, and 10 years later have become the professional programmers, those people were very highly selected for sort of math, science-oriented nerds. It's true. And the people that are, I guess I'm really looking forward to what will it be like 10 years from now when there'll be information providers or information creators that have kind of grown up from the hyper hackers, which are much more not biased. They include a lot of creative people, a lot of people with something to say, rather than just knowing how to push the computer around. And I'm be really interested to see what happens 10 years down the line as people use HyperCard. I'm already getting really good feedback from people using it now, saying, "Wow, I'm able to express myself," and that's really encouraging to me. So, good luck to you all, and send me your best stacks. Also, one more word. I'd like to put in a plug for user clubs. Many of the stacks in HyperCard are being shared. People are being very generous with their work. Part of that is because it's a lot easier. When you do something in an afternoon, you don't really have to make the rent money back out of it, so you do share it. But a lot of people are sharing their HyperCard stacks, and that's making a cumulative effort that we're all building together, and every stack you see is sort of a library of things to build on top of. And what makes that all work is the user clubs, because things that are free aren't going to be sold in the stores. There isn't going to be a good way to get them out other than the public domain librarians here at the clubs. And another thing that the clubs are doing is teaching a large body of new people how to use HyperCard. there will probably be between 50 and 100 times as many HyperCard users as professional Macintosh developers. And it's not the kind of thing that Apple's going to be able to hold everybody's hand. And the user groups are going to provide a very important role. The special interest groups in HyperCard, I'm seeing several of them already breaking down into a couple of levels, you know, the beginner level and the script hacker level and things like that, sharing information and helping each other learn how to use this tool. And I just want to say thanks to you and the other clubs for participating in that and helping get HyperCard out to people. Thank you. Thank you.
Is this one on? Okay. Bill is going to take some questions from the crowd, from the audience. We have a mic set up back over here. If you'd like to ask him a question, please come over to this mic right here and ask it. And keep your questions general and short. And by short, I mean 30 to 45 seconds, please.
With HyperCard, you can tell it to start up an application like go in, open McWrite, open, ready, set, go, blah, blah, blah. And I've just gotten into it, so I'm asking this out of ignorance, but when you quit the application, isn't it supposed to go back to the home card? I've had it just drop out and go back to the Finder and not go back to the home card in HyperCard.
For example, here's a stack that itself contains each card. Each card is a reference to a document out on my disk. So I say, well, I want to go to this document. I press open, and that just says open that document with MacPaint. That brings me into the MacPaint tool with that document, just like when you launch from the Finder. And then when you quit that, it goes back from where it left off. It goes back into HyperCard at the same card you left off at. That's what's supposed to happen every time. This sub-launching mechanism, I call the sub-launch trap, occasionally has a problem and occasionally doesn't get back. But it's like, I've only seen it about 1 in 100 times. It's supposed to come back to the card you left off at. Now, in the 1.1 version, which it'll be out in January. We've finished it. It's off in duplication now. When you launch another application, it will not leave HyperCard if you're under multi-finder. So if you're under multi-finder, instead of quitting HyperCard and launching the other, it'll launch the other as a multiple process and keep running HyperCard.
So is it just application oriented, or if the application doesn't do it, you won't do it, right?
If the application doesn't call exit to shell, it's going to be hard to get back.
Okay.
Right, if they don't follow the Mac rules.
In some of the press recently, there was some people griping about how parts of HyperCard weren't doing the Macintosh standard interface. I want to hear your side of the story.
Could you point out any of those parts?
Well, I remember reading once about someone complaining about how if you press on a button, it works immediately rather than a double press, or like how
do you know any buttons on Mac?
Programming is very modal.
Okay, well, let's take that one for example. Do you know any buttons on Macintosh that you have to double-click?
No, good point.
Okay.
Some of the other complaints were like how the programming was so modal, and you had to go into different stages, and it wasn't all transparent when you were working in it. Like they were complaining about the different levels rather than it all being in one.
Oh, well, I think that's very deliberate. A lot of people are using it not at the scripting level and are not being thrown the full complexity at the beginning. And it's okay. You can set yourself in scripting level and have all of the stuff available at once. But beginners really have an easier time. Their first 1 hour is really much better in the typing level because they can use all the stuff without having to get into scripting right away.
Is that sort of like saying that part of this is a subset of the Macintosh interface, or you're not
Actually,
getting...
I think this is kind of a superset of the Macintosh user interface. Most of the things in the Macintosh user interface you can put together with HyperCard. It's kind of in some ways, a user interface construction kit. You can do things on mouse enter and mouse leave, not just on mouse down or mouse up. You have more flexibility to try different things. I think with a new medium, it's really appropriate not to hardwire the possibilities. For example, the standard Macintosh button doesn't do anything on the downstroke. It only does something on the upstroke. Now try to make a video cassette control here, where or say a video disc controller, where you press and you want it to fast forward while you're pressing and stop fast forwarding when you let go. You see, having all of the raw input allows you to do a standard Mac user interface if you choose, but also other things that weren't thought of in that. So I think a style manual would be appropriate maybe after we've had it a year. After people have built a bunch of stacks and learned what things work well for people and not, a style manual will probably come out.
This was an attempt to improve, add more to the interface then?
Sure, like there wasn't any pull-off, tear-off menu before HyperCard, and yet that will become a standard part of the user interface. There's a lot of things that, the bottom line isn't consistency. That's only a tool toward making something simple to use and simple to learn. And if you can make it easy to learn and easy to use, that's really the goal. You got to keep your eye on who you're doing this for. It's not that you believe in the religion of conformity, it's that conformity serves a purpose. And where it doesn't serve the purpose, then you want to do it a better way.
Thank you very much.
Something that I've been losing sleep over ever since I went through the help stack. Who is Katya, and why is Katya Tutu named after her?
There's a word in there named katatutu, which is a word that Laura made up. It describes miscellaneous specks of junk, like lint on the carpet, or in Carol's case, since her eyes aren't great, little miscellaneous bits left lying around on the cards. Katatutu is miscellaneous.
So there's actually
trash.
no Katya then? I thought there was a girl named Katya that it's
No,
named.
there's a girl named Laura, my daughter, who made up the word katatutu.
I use HyperCard a lot, and I enjoy it a lot, and I'd like to thank you for all the work that you've done on it. It's a great program. The stacks I'm building require, or I would like to have, multi-level sorting and reporting. And I know that currently there is a way to do a subset of a stack and paste it to, or have it automatically create another stack that I can print out a report from, but I find that kind of cumbersome.
Okay.
I just
so
wanted
there are two questions here. One was multi-level sorting. That's easy to do. The sorting primitives are callable from the script, and so you say sort by this thing, sort by that thing, sort numeric by this, sort date time by that, sort text by this, and the sort is deliberately stable. Those fields that are the same, it will not change the cards. So you can sort by the least important thing, then the next least, and then the most. And you will get a true multi-level sort from one click of the button. The second part was sorting portions or reporting on portions of a stack. I know of several vendors who are putting together report generation programs that do much fancier reporting than is in HyperCard. I didn't really want HyperCard to turn into this big grandiose database with 50 zillion things you'd have to learn about report generation. So there are programs already out now that do it with a text file, and you actually export from the stack. There are new ones coming that do it directly from the stack format.
Well, the reporting features are so nice now. They're so easy to use, but one would like to be able to print a subset of a stack. Hopefully without going to a third-party vendor, but a couple of the ones I know of that I'm sure you know of haven't readied their products, and I've heard of delays and...
Okay. If we could get a consensus on what features were wanted, that's what I can't seem to get. There are maybe 50, 60 features for report generation only that people would want, and I'm not sure how to provide the right set of those.
Right.
And whether that's really appropriate inside HyperCard.
And finally, when would the next revision be ready of HyperCard,
Okay.
the next version?
The next revision is version 1.1. The code is finished. It's off being duplicated. Probably it'll be out in the field around January. It has a lot of changes for international and a lot of bug fixes. It has a few new features. Oh, you can undo delete card, and there's support for text cursor arrows and a few things like that. It's free to anybody who already has HyperCard. There's no fee for the upgrade. You can go in and copy it off the dealer, or I think we'll actually mail them out to the clubs. You'll probably be able to copy it here. HyperCard is by no means finished. I think of it as about 2/3 done, and I have a list of about 60 major features that I have yet to implement. The important point that it's at right now is that it's stable. You can write stacks today, and they'll work 5 years from now.
Thank you.
Can you elaborate on talking to laser discs or interfaces to VCRs and CD-ROM players, that sort of thing?
Okay, I heard 3 different topics there. One was laser disc. That sounded like a laser video disc that makes color, full motion movies. The way you talk to those is through the serial port. Most of them have an RS-232 jack on them, and you make you take what amounts to an image writer printer cable to go between the Mac and the laser disc, and you send some bytes out to it, telling it to go to which frame. They're on CompuServe now. There are stacks that have there's a little external command that sends the right bytes out to tell it to go to this frame or tell it to go to that frame. Controlling a video disc is particularly easy from HyperCard. The second topic I thought I heard there was controlling video tape recorders, or VCRs, and most of them only really have a pause facility. You can kind of start and stop them, but you can't go seek to this particular sequence. That's the big advantage of the video disc, is it's random access. Again, anything you could hook up to the serial port would be easy to control. Maybe it's a little read relay or something. And the third one was CD-ROM. That's a different thing from video disc. The CD-ROM is the same size as the little compact disc, audio disc, and they basically look like big write-protected discs with 1/2 gigabyte of information on them. That's the thing I'm working on right now, is some modifications to HyperCard to make it work very nicely with CD-ROM that is coming around the corner. I can't make a product announcement for Apple, but obviously that technology is very soon upon us. It's an important one that suddenly makes it so you can publish 500 megabytes for 80 cents on a little plastic platter. I've built into HyperCard the ability for each stack to handle up to 16 million cards, and any one stack to be up to 1/2 gigabyte in size. So HyperCard is really designed to work with CD-ROM as well as your hard disks, and it'll even work on floppies, but I really recommend, if you're going to use HyperCard for anything more than a Rolodex, that you should get a hard disk. I understand there's some, the group has gotten a good purchase on some Rodime external drives. They have them out in the downstairs, $485 for 20 megabyte external drive, plug in and run, ready to go. I've also seen recently where RAM upgrades, a megabyte of RAM in SIM chips is costing less than $200 now. So things things are really looking up in terms of getting enough power in the machine in order to really take advantage of all of HyperCard. Okay, next question.
Algorithms. What I've read so far in what you've written, your search algorithm and your packing algorithm were important for the development of HyperCard. Are these architecture-specific adaptations of previously known algorithms, or are these new developments?
I've come across a lot of new algorithms in the development of HyperCard that have allowed it to achieve the performance that I insist upon. I've found, like here, you ask about searching. Say, here's the Apple phone list. This stack contains 3,000 cards, each of which has 8 fields. So there are 24,000 disk resident fields here. And if I say find John, N-A-D-M-I-N, John and admin, so it's not by any pre-indexing, I'm there. I've worked out some ways to speed up searching. I've worked out some ways to pack bitmaps. I've worked out a lot of different algorithms to make HyperCard have acceptable performance on the Macintosh. Apple does regard those algorithms as proprietary to Apple.
Has anything been published discussing these
The
algorithms?
patent applications discuss how they work. They are. I have 12 patents from stuff I invented for HyperCard over the 3 years that I worked on it.
You mentioned that HyperCard is about 2/3 finished. What are some of the other major things that you want to make HyperCard do?
He wants to know what are all the things on my list. I got about 2 years' work left to go. I don't like to tell everything that I'm working on because I like to have a little bit of a jump. You know, I like people to enjoy and appreciate what they have while I go work on the next thing to amaze them. I'll tell the first few on the list. How's that? Compromise. I'm working on style changes within fields so that you can have some bold words or some font changes within a field. I'm working on buttons that stick to a range of text rather than to the screen, so that if you scroll some text or retype some text, this button will stick to that range of characters. The CD-ROM support is very important. There's multiple windows, so you can, on larger screens where you have larger screens, you can peel off several windows and be going back and forth between several stacks, things like that. I've got about 60 things on my list, and they're all as important as that, and they're all upward compatible. And I think there'll be lots of releases as I come out with some new stuff. I'll let them out.
Are you going to put an object-oriented drawing type of thing in there? And number two, if I have a McDraw documents already made up, can I put them into HyperCard and then manipulate them through animation?
There were 3 questions in that. One was, are you going to put object-oriented drawing tools? Yeah, they're down at the bottom there, but they're going to happen. They're below color. Are you going to make it so I can paste in from a draw document and animate it? That brings up the area of animation. I have some ideas how to make animation fairly simple. Right now you can do 3 kinds of animation. One is flipping between cards that have different images drawn on them, like the Inigo stacks. Another is using the paint tools from within HyperTalk. You can say, choose select tool, drag from here to here, drag from here to here, and you can move around something. So you can animate by using the painting tools from within a script. And the third way is by using some animation tools that are X commands. The VideoWorks people, MacroMind, has a set of X commands that they're about to release that allows you to do VideoWorks stuff on top of a stack. I anticipate one of the things on my list is having a more general real easy to use sprite animations built into HyperCard. Something that I hope would be easier to use than VideoWorks. But that will be a while coming, so don't hold your breath waiting for it. I got other things. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bill, for coming to Dallas, taking the weekend to show us HyperCard. We have a small token of our appreciation, and one of them is a stack that we've developed. Is it 3, information 3, which we'll have to load on the hard disk to run, but we'll try that. But also we were trying to decide on a gift to give Bill for coming out, and we wanted to give him something that we figured he didn't have, and that's a pretty hard item to come up with, so let me get it for him. Not everything you see is what you see. Yes, go ahead and open it. And we've got the Dallas stack on the hard disk.
All right. How'd you know my size?
I'll never tell.
Do the jeans go in or out?
They go out.
I'm wearing the wrong color jeans.
All right. Why don't you go ahead and plug them?
Were these in the IBM box because they're shit kickers? Uh-oh. I think I just got in trouble. Show me?
Why don't you go ahead and start it?
Open. Which one? W. Aha, a little note there. Well, let's press it. Oops. Howdy, howdy. Yeehaw. Did you, what? It says, did you think this was for Scott Watson? Welcome to Dallas, Bill. Yeah. Next card here. The Milky Way Galaxy. You are here. Far out. United States of America? Too much recursion. No shit. What should I do now? The Republic of Texas and Dallas.
Click on it and read it. They took it out. Okay. Click on Dallas.
Is it doing something? Oh, there we go. Dallas, Texas. Aha, InfoMart. A little info about Big D. Dallas is the largest city in the United States not located on a major body of water. Legend has it that early settlers came from Fort Worth looking for better weather. Or was it Neiman Marcus? Whatever the reason, it all worked out okay. Good thing, too. If it hadn't, we might never have had a Roger Staubach or Trammell Crow or H. Ross Perot or even the Apple Corps of Dallas. Apple Corps of Dallas. A little bit about it, more info about it, more info. The Mac Pack, a friendly users group. All right. Electronic data systems. I talked to them this morning. Local Macintosh bulletin boards. The Mac Shack, Macro Mouse. The Dallas Cowboys, of course. America's Whipping Boys. I didn't know that. Learn something new every day if you're not careful. And credits. Doug Redman. That's pretty cool. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. All right, folks, that seems to be all we got. I appreciate you coming out. I would like to make a few more comments, though. Many of you noticed that we did request donations when you come in the door. We did not want to charge attendance for this, charge money for it, but we did incur some substantial expenses, and so we do ask that if you can, contribute to that. Also, we need some help from volunteers to stick around and help us fold up these folding chairs if you can. Again, thanks for coming, and if you'd like to get your HyperCard manuals autographed, Bill will be up here.